Hello, this is Edward from Breathe the Blue Ocean, and I'd like to invite you to listen to a friend of mine, a brother of mine named Q, and that's him sitting there in the picture, and I'm just going to enlarge that, and I've asked Q a few questions, and let's have a listen to hear his side of the world. Q, over to you.
Hi, how you doing, everybody? I'm Q7 Beckett. I'm a Naro Southern African Native clan member, and I'm happy to be here for this interview. Learn to know each other. Okay. So where do we start? Firstly, before we start anything, I would like to first say thank you to everybody, especially Edwin, for taking this opportunity. So honestly, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I see there's a lot of objects around you from your culture.
Yes, around me is something amazing. As a Southern African Native clan person, we have different responsibilities in a village, and mine would fall into providing, pathfinding, seeking healing for a person's ailments, whether physical or spiritual. Doesn't make me a healer or a shaman. It just makes me one of the members of many of us living in a village that has these capabilities. It's not a special person's thing like you'd find in other tribes and clans. But behind me, I have reminders of a world that's almost vanished. It all starts with a tortoise, where we're from, and what it means. Fluffy tail of a lion's tip of a tail. This carries something very important in remembrance of who we are and where we come from and the journey we've been on in our existence. Along with this egg, it's an ostrich egg. It represents life, water as a gift of life, where we live and what we used to live like. Water was much scarce than what it's now. Now it's politically scarce. This water would have been carried, placed under a certain tree that certain clans would identify as a storage place that there would be water. And you never drink a lot. The lesson is about taking a sip each person and filling it with the little bit you have and moving on. It goes bottle to bottle to bottle and bottle to bottle to bottle to fill it just up again. And you put it back, and that symbolizes something amazing. It symbolizes that there's this one thing, no matter who we are in the clans, that brings us together, and it's an ostrich egg with water, symbolizing life, as well as the tortoise.
Beautiful.
In this time I'm in 2023, ending it to 2024. I'm in a new generation of being a bushman. I'm practically an urban bushman because I live partially in the bush and I live in the metro region. It's not much likeness I have for city life, but I'm more productive in the wild, in the bush, where most of these things I have is actually, you can use it. Out here in the city, I'm limited as the best person I can be. And that's why I actually stay further away from cities, learning how to better the skill of playing bow, which I use for not just music. It's not just song and dance. To us, we believe in something that the Joansi also calls komtima. It is a sound, and the sound is perfect. The sound creates life, can remove diseases, can fix something, can restore balance in nature and between nature and man. And this sound can take shape. And as our old stories say that it takes shape in a elephant that actually changes into an aardvark that changes into a puff adder. And Komtima has a horn. She's like this mythical god. And this horn is called Tui. And Tui, in the Joansi belief, whenever darkness comes, the horn makes a sound and she points it in that direction. And that becomes something powerful when you learn to play an instrument, because there's not many instruments in the San culture. You're talking about drums coming in because of us dropping things and hearing sounds coming out of it. Not unlike the Bantu cultures who actually build drums for understanding acoustics and a bit of sound. We just created sound naturally, but the bow comes in far, far, far older than most instruments. And if you study it properly, we are the oldest, this is the oldest sound instrument, because not only is it a bow where you play the healing sounds or the calming sounds, but it's actually also a hunting instrument. You hunt with it. It's about taking life. You know, it's about taking life. You can take life with this thing. I'm not just carrying something that entertains me or the ancestors or the energies, but I'm carrying something that can feed me. It teaches me the difference between life and death, how to respect life and death. It's also to do with the sound of birth, the sound of you dying. These are all sounds, and we try to balance that. But as San, we don't try and balance that. We know it exists, and we're in harmony and try as much to stay within the harmony of that sound. And the easiest way is through a bow. There's different forms of the bow. This is a kuiti. It's a bow you play on your chest or in between your feet that changes the sound's vibration, where you have one sound stationary, where you can shape the bass of it or the higher frequencies of it while playing with a lower frequency and making a melody. This bow would not be used for anything healing, but it would be used for storytelling, calming a child down, telling while creating herbs, you play with something like this, nothing serious. And then there's the pot bow, where a bow like this would be used. And that would be laid on a metal pot laying upside down or a dish laying upside down. And 4 or 5 of us could play with a string, a different melody each, creating sounds that we could mimic animals on or talk stories or poetry, our version of it. This is more modern. I'm creating it because I'm finding a lot of time where I'm crouching. And it's one of the things I want to use to get rid of my posture of using phones. So I hold it like I would hold my phone, but the strings turn, as you can see, in such a way where I would not be able to sit still but align myself while I play frequencies to maybe think of a formula, a treatment, a remedy. I find that thinking these things while listening to bow or playing bow, I find more similarities and a pathway to a plant or an animal part that I maybe forgot about in curing a psoriasis or trying to assist somebody with minimizing cancer or TB. So it's not me also playing it. I have to bear in mind that every time I play it, I can add another intention. Maybe there's somebody that I'm working on a treatment for 2-3 weeks and I just can't think of the plant combination that would assist this person for that particular thing. But when I play this, I think that plants and all that thoughts of thinking comes back and it actually formulates my path, what I should have been thinking about. So it's also used for me to control things. I have pain, and due to having trigeminal pain or any facial pain, you daydream, you drift, because you're trying to get a mechanism to think your thoughts straight and make it work. But at the same time, you don't want to show the scars, the mental scars, the psychological scars of pain. You don't want to show the mindfulness of pain, which is truth, but you have to consider other people. These are These are leg shakers.
Yeah.
It goes well with the bow. So it's about creating sounds that brings harmony. And what else brings harmony than the circle?
Yeah.
The circle sound creates. Since a child, I was told, close your eyes and clap your hands. And when I did that, circles formed. Other than that, I would write, scratch against the wall, or do anything, no shape would form. And from there, I was made to be understand in a city where I grew up in Johannesburg, that actually in the bush where we come from, this is what we call it. Yeah, it's a form of reaching out to an ancestor. What we thought is an ancestor, later learning today in life, it's energy. So that energy we see in trance that we could never translate today, at least we can articulate it. And I'm not the only one speaking English today, but it is amazing today that we could find ways to tell people what is this power about or energy about while playing bow or dancing or being in the naturally. So further than that, what most people would call witchcraft, we have the same. We have things I have to do before going into playing traditional or spiritual bow playing or any form of medicine. This is okra. Okra. Yes, I can't say it properly. And it has got gemsbok fat in it. And gemsbok is oryx. So it's got oryx fat in it from above the head, behind the neck, which is spiritual to us. That is mixed with this, put onto your face, certain markings in your face, where we would have put medicine before, where we take a blade or a thing sharp and scratch open places on you and put in mushed medicine until it tattoos you and stays within you. Many of us has marks on our bodies where you think it's a tattoo. Women's got whiskers, guys got lines, and this is for protection, a protection against the greatest evil there exists. We call it the devourer. We haven't really given it a name throughout the clans, and everybody's got a calling name for it. And on our side, to pronounce it correctly, it would be called understanding. Again, something we would not talk about. It's practically what it would say. And the opposite of him is his son that ran away from him, and his daughter, Porcupine and Mantis. So they shapeshift because of him, and he can't shapeshift. And apparently, we need to keep him in no shapeshifting way. He should not release these things. It brings us envy, jealousy, anger. We call it little devils, like in Islam, they call it shaitanis, not shaitan, shaitanis, and not jinn. It's different because we also have a form of jinn, but we would call jinn in the understanding in Islam. But in us, we would call it a bush person or a forest person, not understanding. Today, I grow up learning words like elemental and what other northern indigenous people would call as pixies, fairies, all these things. When we hear these things, we think about our stories in the bush and the things we've seen before. So these govern protection for that. The snuff is respect for the elders and the old people who died for us and for me to be able to tell the story. Some of them smoke snuff, some of them likes the okra, some of them likes Bushman tea. Bushman tea is cat. You chew 3 of these leaves, any sound or vibration can put you in a trance-like state. I had half a leaf so that when I played this, I could at least benefit something other than, making friends or anything, something for myself also in my energy. So I've already had it. We smoke herbs, not cannabis. Cannabis came in much later. It's a nice thing to smoke, but most of our healers don't. They have tried it. The herbs they smoke is some of the most amazing bouquets in herbology that I can say it's not even researched or studied properly, which I use in helping kids with autism, panic attack. I work a lot in pain and panic and trauma and shock because my pain and what I've experienced and knowing what I use for myself to bring me out of those states, especially when I started getting hurt. And dealing with babies and old people, I found that these ways were quite efficient when it comes to dealing with trauma, shocking pain. So the bow today in my life is that. Any questions, brother?
You said so much.
I can go on and on.
I'm sure you
I
can.
can go on.
Yeah, and I can listen. I can keep listening to every word you say. How long have you been helping people with the trauma and bow playing?
Well, as a kid, I used to pick up sadness. I could tell the difference between a happy person and a non-happy person, not because of what you look like, because my grandmother taught me about what we would today know as energy. She taught me that when a person is angry, you could actually go near the person and would feel that something's changed. Heat. When a person is hungry, you could go to a person and feel there's no heat. This person didn't eat. So because you could have picked up those two things, anger and hunger, has a difference. You could pick up the energy that a person needed. Many times I would walk past a person and I would feel not the illness or the disease, no. You lie if you say that. You can't particularly point out. But you can feel the off balance of the other person. You can talk to a person and also feel the off balance. So that led to me being able to understand there's something amazing happening where people don't know how to react to shock, to trauma, to a gunshot. I've seen people faint to a gunshot. I've seen some people not be able to speak. I've seen some people not have breath, but they were not shot. And that gave me the study because I was growing up in that situation, not understanding that I'm actually creating a way to translate my age's trauma at that time with Bushman knowledge that showed me how to recognize that in the bush and
Mm,
recognize that through our storytellings and our cosmology and our myths and everything we talk about being scared because we don't really have fear. We talk about scared as indigenous people. We don't really talk fear. If we talked fear, it would be impossible for Nara woman to take food from a lion, for
mm,
example, or for me to be able to talk baboon or play the tone of a baboon with my bow to calm down a maddening baboon. So energy and sound showed me that you could change these things, but that you're not in control of it. It's about intention, it's about mindset, it's about where you stand, how you have to center yourself, if you have to call it center, because you can't perform this thing wherever you like.
mm,
You have to be inside of yourself still. At times, when I'm angry and furious, I could think more poisonous plants and poisonous things within that and challenge that information in me with my skill and do something about it. But when I'm not angry, I would rather think of knocking out topical diseases, which plants would be nice to rub on me right now. I don't feel right. I'm itching. I think things like that. But whenever I go into a state of shock, instead of me having shock, I go into a state of creating formulas to counter that.
mm,
And later on, it started being in me, investing in what my grandmother taught me about plants, massaging, oils, how to naturally get oils, naturally eat. My grandfather taught me the hunting side, what a huntsman needs to know, how he has anti-poisons, which plants he needs to know for when he gets hurt. It's not the same as the gatherers. They might use the same, but where he goes, they might not be. So he's taught things that's quite different to being in the homestead because he's a huntsman. And in that, I learned the both ways and not to balance it, but to find in it what I would need in the future. Today, I sit in a future where I can't really say in most of my diagnosis, which I study mostly early detection and diagnosis, I haven't found really sick people, but either displaced or displaced energy people or person that is facing a trauma of generational that makes that person think they have those things, And me with pain, being able to carry so much pain throughout my life, understanding the basis of that. And I think, especially because I read a lot since I was small, and due to reading a lot, I only read natural medicines and conversated with elders about medicine and what we were calling trauma and things. We don't call these things in the bush though. We don't have trauma in the bush. We say scared. Same as our problem we have with HIV. We don't say HIV, we say big sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, understand? And TB is cough sick. So being 2023, those are the challenges that even assisted in me losing a large part of my language, where I just understand. I don't dream in my language, I dream in a foreign language. And that's part of the medicine. If I could be able to dream in my language, I would be able to be a better healer than what I am and pathfinder than what I am, because I would remember most of the lessons my grandmother gave me, because she said that if you forget something, it's either when you sleep you're going to remember it. They don't again call it dreams; they call it going somewhere. You go there and you dream, like we say, dream, and you go re-listen to it and come back. But it's going to be in your language. I was taught medicine in Tung, Naro, and Nama.
Mm.
Today I speak English and Afrikaans, and partially parts of the other parts of the language. So those things also is a block, but fortunately, we're not in the past anymore. I can travel, and you start visiting and you start exploring within your own culture and the depths of it, staying away from the textbook information, the PhD information, and going in there and speaking to old people and elders and healers for yourself and experiencing the past. And by knowing you have to go there, not be aware of your now.
Mm.
And unfortunately, most people abuse when we talk of it that way, because then we talk about trance and trance. And we in a generation today that if we had to take the past 15 years of abusing the plants worldwide, today in the traumatic experiences we are facing and in this mental illness world that we are afraid of, these plants would actually been accepted by society, churches, ways of life, governments, and it would have been safe. Today we are stuck on, pharmaceutical companies' recipes.
Mm.
And I think that I'm going to be one of those people in life that would always want to, take a person either to sound, a plant, or water.
Mm.
But I would never. I'm trying to dream my name disappearing. I don't want to be part of this no more. I know it's needed, but it's also confusing to me as a healer trying to get out of the situation while trying to also not be disrespectful to the people. That's normal. I don't think like them. I don't smell like them. I want the bush. I want to smell like that. I want to eat like that. Every time I eat food from the Western side, it's starting to hurt me.
Yeah.
So I feel to myself, the longer I stay in places like this, depression don't exist, but here I want to create one.
Mm. Do you,
So as a healer, it's about minimizing things like that before I start touching.
I've noticed and read a bit on sand culture, and when you together with your community and with your parents, some of the healing dances are quite interesting. What are the names for some of the dances and?
Well, it depends on what dance you're going to be referring to. You're going to be referring to a spiritual dance. You're going to be referring to a celebration of just family, a wedding. There's different dances at different times. Some dances are not a dance, they are lesson. Children dance like springboks because they have to learn to be gathered like springboks and react to parents and elders the way springboks do in that level of command. But that is learned in a dance. So that would be the springbok dance. And then there's the Gemsbok dance on how to hunt a Gemsbok and why it's important. And then an eland dance. And then there's the dove dance that shows the woman's pride, and the ostrich dance that shows the mating ritual between a man and a woman. So it depends when you talk the dances. And then there's the trance dances for healing, where a person would be focused on within a group of human beings sitting there performing normal hand caps just in very high rhythmical and changes levels of sound dramatically with yodeling and certain, repetition of words. And then we find ourselves in trance. Some of us do take plants, but it depends on the age groups of the people. And this gives one human being the ability to see who needs healing, who needs curing. And that dance is not an everyday thing. Unfortunately, today, because of tourism, we are asked to do it 3-4 times a day, which means we're faking it.
Yeah.
And it hurts us. Yes, the tourist comes, and yes, we need the money. We're not supported by South African governments, Botswana governments, Namibia governments. We don't exist. But when the tourists come, yes, we smile, yes, we get dressed, and we perform it exactly like I would pull a demon out of you. But just this time, it doesn't happen because it's not needed at that point of times, and not all the time. So we fake it to feed our families, which breaks up a lot. You know, it's like semantics. Every time a word is invented, you break up a culture. You break up a story of somebody's beginning, somebody's origin. Every time we fake the trans, we're adding things to it to make it more payable, more fundable, more charitable. And the more we add to these things, we're forgetting who we are. The meaning of the song changes, the hand clap, it changes slightly, it changes the entire meaning, and then the meaning becomes profitable and not a blessing, a gift to life. And these dances are important. You asked me about the moon dance. For example, the moon dance, we always hide and do this. You'll find a family that maybe were bad luck in a hunt for a while, or woman keep losing the child. Third time his man is trying. He's eating the right plants, she's drinking the right potions, she's eating the right animal body parts, he's eating the right body parts of the animal, he's cool enough, but something was just wrong. So then him and the family members will go look for a spot to maybe see, maybe they angered their ancestors, maybe they angered rain, maybe they angered Bisapolo, maybe they angered Kagan, the shapeshifter. They don't know. So they go and find this place where this mother can sit in the middle with a fire, and the men start dancing by creating a shuffle and hand clap and yodel dance where we go in a circle anti-clockwise. And this happens before the moon bridges land, before you can see the moon. Fire is made before then. Preparations are made, and it could last hours. It could, if you're not doing it for tourism and you're doing it for something that you really need in life, something's wrong with the family, it could go on until the moon breaks into half or quarter. That is beyond where we call it, yeah. We reach, you hear the shaman or the healer say that he saw this light coming down from the earth, like a hummingbird, we say. And he touched the earth and it turned into water. Every time this thing comes down, it exposes who's sick in the environment, and this man runs to you and grabs it, sucks it out, and throws it into the cosmos. Not earth. It needs to go far away from where it can harm people. It needs to come from where our parents are. Another planet, as people would say, but call us nuts. We believed this before man knew what was time nor a star. How people existed. Believing this particular things, leaving marks on rocks and caves that outdates carbon dating. And all they could say is that we're an intelligent species who survived time. And these medicines that we have today is our only weaponry, bow playing, our herbs, our trances, understanding our ancestry, is our only weapons today to defend ourselves from a world of ignorance, because we're becoming that world of ignorance, and we soon will only speak English and only speak Afrikaans, because we are the first to be colonized by fear. The human thing must happen. People evolve and devour each other. We understand the lesson of the devourer. It's on a rock painting for many years. So we know people do that to each other. Palestine, Russia, no, we know that. Tell us something new.
Yeah.
It doesn't disturb how we feel seeing that nation do that to it. Now we've seen it. The Devourer painting is older than any form of hurt you can do on a human being. And that painting promises something more painful than a war that you humanly can do. I'm more afraid of that. I'm focusing on that. I want to hear the signs of that, smell the signs of that. We know when the Devourer walks around if we train. I know his sound, I know his smell. I know what his shapeshifters sound like. I know how animals react, how humans react. A year ago, 2 years ago, I had to do something to a little boy that had the energy and power in a village of not a normal person. Church would have called it a demon. I can't, but I can say that something was in that boy. And it scared all those white kids that was with me there. And it scared everybody there, even the pastor with his Bible and his crucifix. But knowing my culture and my tradition, I could reason with this thing, and the boy came back. Now, these type of things, as I say, as an indigenous person, will not happen if you don't recognize and remember those dances, those trance dances. Why the moon comes out? It's because she's a blessing. She shows you that everything that is full must break, must get empty. You must not be satisfied. You must be as empty as the moon because she's never full. And it starts all over again, knowledge. A circle that just never ends, death to birth to death. It just happens. But in a normal world, that's uncivilized to think that way and react the way we react. But even though civilization wants to civilize, they need to remember that we're losing an ancient world within us that now is relevant in our other distant relatives, Europeans, Americans, wherever. We all have to look at cosmology. And I know that ours hasn't. We could find solutions for climate change within the San culture. We could find solutions for conservation, animal care within the San culture. There's a scare in every rites of passage that makes us respect nature more than we respect our parents. Not a fear. The only fear we have is we might never see them again, but we know we can call them again. At least we have that. That's why death is not a big thing for us. We know we can call them back again. We know we're not talking to fresh air when somebody died. When we feel that feeling, we start talking, hey, that person might be here now. Put out his favorite thing, put the cigarette out, put the juice out. And that's also a form of dancing. It's not just the circle, the main circle you see when we dance around a fire with intention. It could be to ask nature help, succussing the ground with our sorrows, our sadness. It could be just that, that's what we normally do. That's a cleansing. We dance until all this goes back to balance, back to normal. And we ask new to come in through the energy of the fire, through water, to recognition, to remembering the ancestors and asking to be recognized. Can't just do. There is still understanding the discipline of whichever clan you belong to, whether it's African or not. We all have these disciplines. And the dance protects all this. It reminds you. And it also teaches you that it's not done just by you, it's done by others. Yeah. For you to go into trance, it takes about 28, 30 people. Not the tourism version, it just takes 8 of us.
Okay.
No, it takes you sending messages first a month ago, far out into the bush, to see which healers respond. So it's not just the everyday thing. If you come to South Africa, you're going to secure